Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make Believe, where we're playing the house in Fata Morgana. Last time, we learned about Michelle's curse, as well as why the mansion's so dark, and the white hair girl's, sorry, Giselle's feeling for him. So now we can see where we're gonna be going from there, now that has all been thrown on the table. Oh, 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 wait, hold on. What a beautiful story. Much better than the real thing. Is it not, my dear? The real thing? Okay, so now I need to pay attention to the log. Because apparently we're having a moment like this. And also the log has some parts scratched out. It's very weird. That day, when I first saw Giselle, I was worried of her. Apprehensive. I didn't want her anywhere near me. But as my doubts about her faded, I began feeling something very different. Okay, these sound effects is very um uncomforting. As though the lump in my heart had been melted away. I began to yearn for her to be at my side, knowing full well it couldn't possibly last, knowing full well how foolish it was. I found myself captivated by her. Okay, the sound effects are keep getting worse. I found myself wishing to have her stay with me. Can we uh are we turning into a horror game now? Because if it is, I went off this ride. Nobody told me it would be a horror game. Oh, the music. That marked the true beginning of their quiet days together in the dark mansion. They acknowledged and accepted each other's presence, no longer isolating themselves, but actively, regularly conversing. As mundane as it might seem, was something they had been unable to attain until then. Nevertheless, they were still somewhat fumbling around in the dark with one another, drawing closer and pushing away again. Michel, in his own ungraceful way, was beginning to open himself up to the things she said, and the white hair girl, which for some reason we're not calling Giselle, was beginning to smile with greater frequency. They had taken to dining together, and her wish of learning to read was being granted. He taught her in the feeble light of a candle placed upon the table, the two sitting across from one another. Though Michel seemed to be well educated, he had not been instructed in the art of teaching, so he found himself in the process quite ruined. But to the white hair girl, the longer it took, the better. Her primary objective was, after all, to spend time with him. That days passed, and eventually we reached a point where her comprehension was adequate enough without assistance. Her next request, then, was for them to read through a book together. Have you ever, have you read every book in the library? No. I stopped looking at them after a while. Most everything I'm sent is though an informative track. I'd never seen the word drac before. The Diary of a Lord. Foolish make-believe tales. You're not fond of fiction, I take it? What value is there in the lies and fantasies of another? I, for one, am a fan of fiction. Very much prefer fiction books. Love reading fiction books. Stories can be invigorating. Tales of adventures can take you places you could never go. Legends of heroes, folklore, stories of otherworldly phenomena. They can be terrifying, and they can be exhilarating. They may not be real, but they give you a little glimpse to the author's heart, let you feel like you're seeing the same thing they saw. You are a very empathetic girl. Fiction inspires nothing of the sort in me. However, hmm, perhaps long ago, you may have been able to, though I cannot no longer remember what it feels like. I'm sure it'll come back to you. You're not an empty man after all. Sorry, I'm making you uncomfortable again, aren't I? Um, um, how about we read this book today? Hmm? It appears to be a collection of legends. You haven't read this one yet, then? That's good to hear. It'll be more enjoyable if it's a new experience for the both of us. It looks like the record of local legends. The book is divided into several sections, though it appears to be mostly superstitions. I'm curious what kind of stories this area has. The two of them were looking down at a simple, undecorated volume. As the white-haired girl had said, it seemed to be a collection of local legends, passed down generation to generation. They sat across from one another at the table, her turning the pages and Michelle simply watching so as not to brush against her. Eventually, her eyes were drawn to a particular word on one of the pages, bringing her hands to a stop. The witch. That chapter detailed the story of a witch, or more precisely, that witch's curse. The story went something like this. There once was a witch skilled in the dark arts who lived in a meager but peaceful life alongside the other villagers. But then a long, long drought struck the village, which the people blamed on the witch. The witch was sentenced to death, and as the fire blazed around her, smoke rose high into the air. The smoke soon became rain clouds, blessing the village with an end to the drought. The crops were revitalized, and the villagers fancied themselves heroes. However, the rain also brought madness upon the people. Though the earth below them was lush and fertile, the villagers were losing their minds, and they eventually began to take each other's lives. The witch still lived on in the form of a curse. Many fell victim to the witch's curse, though it did not only take, it also fulfilled people's desires. The villagers had to go mad, but their wish for freedom from the drought had been granted. I'm just thinking about the mansion, because doesn't the mansion grant wishes? But so far, it's the people we followed had tragedies going on. The Fleckton Hair family, both Mel and Nellie. Um, the the beast, which I forgot his name, Yukimasa or Yukimura, something like that. And we also had the what Jacopo, like, and all of them were tragedies, and but they had their wish granted in a form. It's kind of like a genie. You have your wish, but it's not the way you wish it for, not the way you want it. Like a monkey's paw. Thus, the legend had been passed down as follows. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for a great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens. But know that road is a road of destruction. Road to destruction. Mm. Ooh, the music. People still believe the witch's legend even now, I suppose. And that's why I face accusation of being a witch. This is not an area very welcoming to outsiders, especially one who stands out as much as you. What brought you to this region in the first place? Mine, it's a story I'm sure you've heard before. Was cast out of my house. I come from a very poor family, you see. We could barely even afford to keep everyone fed. Being as weak as I am, it was only natural that I would be the first to go. I see. What I don't understand, though, is why the witch is said to grant people's wishes. That is to say, I had reason to hold a grudge, but not to give people things they ask for. All we have to go on is a few pages. There's no saying what might have been changed or added over time. It's almost certain the entire legend isn't written here. I mean, in a way, the granting wishes is to attract people so they can fall prey to this curse. That said, if we are to accept everything as written, you can infer that the witch's reason might have been. And that is, you truly want it that much, you can have it. But I'll make certain your suffering outweighs it. Oh, that is a good way to put it. Despair that comes after a moment of happiness is far more agonizing than despair alone. Yeah, it's kind of like a roller coaster. Just a downhill is something, but if you go up a hill and then go down, it's much more. I presume that is why the witch decided to grant people's wishes. That is one way to look at it. May I ask you something? Go on. When I first arrived here, you told me that a cursed witch used to live in this mansion. After reading this legend, I'm finding it hard to believe you made that up simply to scare me away. I appropriated the tale, nothing more. It is said that the witch was born in this house, which then makes the house have this curse upon it. I see. What? Quite the place my family found for me. But it was a clever decision putting me here, I think. Not many people are likely to come near your house with such a pedigree. But no, never mind. That makes sense. I suspect I know what she was going to say then. If the witch is said to grant wishes, then wouldn't that also attract people who so desperately want something? They do not care what price they must pay? Which is what I was saying, the other possibility of why she grants wishes. And perhaps she was correct. Perhaps there had been those who had come to the mansion chasing after the legend, and perhaps they had encountered Michel, touched him, and lost their lives. On that day in the garden, he had said, "Many things are burned here." Perhaps that included such visitors. Makes sense? But like this whole story about the mansion granting wishes but bringing tragedy makes so much sense, I guess. I wonder if that story might be more than mere superstition. But that also means I'm waiting for the tragedy to strike here. Because we're gonna have that twist coming sooner or later, and it's gonna be devastating. If If the witch of legend really did exist, what would you do? Hmm, it might be nice to talk to her, maybe. That's all? Really? I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visited her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine just how lonely that must be. Yeah, Giselle is a very lonely girl, but very empathetic. I swear, I cannot comprehend the way your mind works. Sorry. Although, if we assume the legend is true, I have an idea what climb for the heavens might mean. Oh? The mansion has an observation tower. Or, I suppose, what used to be an observation tower. And that's where we climb to reach this era. Oh, wow. At any rate, it is quite a tall structure. This is the house where the witch was supposedly born. The tower reaching for the heavens, like the perfect place to find her, if she really is here. Oh, yes, I remember seeing a rather tall structure as I first approached the mansions. Would you like to see it? Of course. They're both not worried at all about this. Please lead the way. The two of them left the library and made their way to the room with the stained glass window. At the far end of the room were the stairs to the observation tower. Yup, the observation tower is after the chapel. The tale of the witch had piqued the white-haired girl's interest, inspiring her to put herself forward to satisfy that curiosity. She had, after all, been accused of being a witch herself, so she undoubtedly felt an affinity to the legend. What a sweet girl she was. Sweet, but naive. Yup, there's those stairs. The stairs we're all so familiar with. With Michelle in the lead, the two climbed a long spiral staircase. There were many more stairs than the white-haired girl had anticipated, and she soon found herself short of breath. Rectangular windows were carved out in the stone in regular interval. Peering through one of them, she could see a village in the distance. A pleasantly cool, high-altitude breeze brushed across her face. And there's the door. The door that we entered to start this era. After much climbing, they finally arrived at the top, where a door made of partially rotted wood stood. Michelle pulled open the door, revealing a small room with no windows or door in sight. Is this the top of the tower? Despite it being called an observation tower, you could hardly observe anything from there. Okay, so this image kind of reminds me of the story that the white hair girl was telling Mel in the very first story. So, is it all connected? Like, is that story about the witch? Her face contorted in confusion, the white haired girl drew her gaze about the room. Glancing up, she saw only a darkened ceiling, and slightly below it, a single small window through which shone a little ray of light. The beam cleaved through the darkness like the sharpened blade of a beautiful sword. The darkness draped over the rest of the room only served to make more impressive that solitary ray of light. It had a magical, fairy tale quality to it. As if being pulled in by it, it drew towards the light. I suspect there was once a large window in this room. If you look closely, you can see seams in the stone of the wall. The color of the stone differs slightly on either side of the seams. I presume something caused them to seal off the window after it was built, though I don't know what something might be. Why was he slowing down? Oh, look at her. When Michelle's eyes fell upon the white hair. Oh, also, I did not check. Was there any more? Yeah, the writing glitched out. No, just that one. Okay. When Michelle's eyes fell upon the white haired girl, wrapped in that beam of light, he sputtered to stop. Yup, he stopped talking when he looked at her in the light. A man who never flinched at anything, who had long since distanced himself from such stirrings of the heart, was utterly bewitched. He had never seen her illuminated so vividly before, and he was having a great deal of trouble finding the words to describe her striking beauty. For someone who had been chased out of her home and accused of being a witch, the white-haired girl looked less like a practitioner of the dark arts, and more like one of the hosts of heaven. Michel undoubtedly felt the same way, for his gaze was fixed firmly upon her. Oh, look at that smile. Dazzling, isn't it? Like a staircase leading to heaven. Oh, it's dazzling, but I don't think he's talking about a staircase or the lights. Yes, perhaps so. Oh my god. We had 3 expressions from her so far in this. Something the matter? No, I'm fine. Make that 4. You know, it feels like there's something odd in the air here. It feels like someone actually might be listening. If if the witch were to speak to you, what would you say to her? Oh my god. We keep having more and more expressions of her in this image. I'm loving that. I would ask her to tell me her true feelings. Tell me what kind of person she was, and what kind of pain she had to endure. I just want to know what she felt. This woman people branded a witch. The legend was written from a neutral perspective. It's possible she was a fearsome witch. It's also possible she wasn't. I get the feeling she's being persecuted like me. Like me and you. I also got that feeling that she just got blamed for it. Unlike you, I truly am impure. After all, what benefit would she have living in that drought as well? Because she was part of the village. Disgrace all you want, but my touch kills. No, disagree all you want, but my touch kills. I'm a strange, incomprehensible, irrational creature. Or maybe I'm not even a living being. And that's why when I touch something that is, I bring them death. If only I actually were a witch. If only I had some kind of extraordinary power, regardless of whether it came from God or the devil. And yeah, all the story had the white hair girl showing up. So, but I believe some of them had that wish being granted before she showed up. So, not necessarily the connections there. Then I would be able to grant people's wishes. My wish need not to be granted. But It's what I want to. I wish to be able to touch you. Look at that smile. I would be perfectly content with nothing changing, with us never being able to touch one another. I would be more than happy with that. But I'm allowed to dream, aren't I? And how you'll be able to test that change? It doesn't have to be in this life. I pray the day will come that we can get closer. Maybe it has to happen in another life. Happiness is very much a stranger to me. But am I allowed to dream too? You are. I would never touch you, I swear. But I would like to dream about it. I would like to imagine placing my hand upon your cheek. And reach your hand out for me. Up, 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 up. Um, um, is he is within a distance, right? I will imagine it too. Or is this like them imagining it? I'm imagining your fingers running through my hair, brushing up against my skin. I can feel your warmth. There was a wall between them, a wall they could not cross. For if they did, it would mean the white-haired girl's death. No matter how much they yearned for it, they could not touch one another, but they did so within the confines of their imagination, envisioning it in as much detail as they could imagine, they could manage. I feel like I've seen a story like this somewhere. Two people living together, wishing to touch each other as much, however, as much as they wish for, they could never do it. I don't recall too much of the story, but I feel like it ended in tragedy. Like they did end up touching each other, but as expected, it ended with the death. Like I feel like I heard the story somewhere before. It was sad, but sweet. A moment of pristine, untainted beauty. Of course, that doesn't mean this story is gonna end up the same way. The two of them emanated serenity. As fitting as the word cursed might have been to the mention as a whole, at the top of the observation tower, a pure bond was being shared. Fleeting moment between a young man with a cursed touch and a kind-hearted, beautiful girl. The dream did not last long, no, for God is quite cruel. They simply wanted to be together. That was all. Their wish was hardly unreasonable. Only a quiet, peaceful life together. But misfortune was creeping ever nearer, its footsteps growing more and more pronounced. Oh, is it more stock, like food and a book, or is something else actually happening and we're moving towards that twist in the story? Hmm? And someone at the door? The flow of time was hazy within the mentioned walls. They had little ways of telling whether it was night or day, preventing them from knowing exactly how much time had passed. The white hair girl had made a habit of climbing the observation tower every so often to see whether the sun was up, which allowed her to approximate the time of the day. Consequently, When she heard the knock on the door, she was not aware just how deep the night was outside. The forest and beasts alike lay quietly at rest. Oh, right, the stores in the cellar are almost exhausted. It must be this month's delivery. The expectations. Always when they go in expecting something, there's that twist that's gonna happen. Not thinking it was worth bothering Michelle over, she made her way out of her chambers and headed for the entrance. Yeah, yeah, see? He's not letting him know what's going on. It's not gonna be the same things happening. There had only been a single knock. Lady Hirsch concluded that, as before, the servant had simply left the box outside the door. So without second thought, she opened the door. And, ready for the twist? And there she saw a strange, vagrant man standing in the moonlight. His clothes were tattered, his bearded face bony and emaciated. She gasped, shrinking back several paces. The heavy door began to swing shut, but the man forced it open, glaring down at her with unfocused eyes and mumbling, "Are you the witch that'll grant people's wishes?" Yeah, this person came looking for that legend. Just like we were talking earlier in this episode, how some people might come to this mansion after the legend. Get wish coming after the wish being granted, with whatever cost may come with it. It was in that moment that the white-haired girl realized she had been careless. The man had sought out the mansion because he believed the legend of the witch, and he did not seem particularly right of mind either. Perhaps a result of wandering through the forest for several days, or perhaps it was because he was so beaten down that he thought to ask for a witch's help. In a word, he seemed mad. No, there is no witch here. Surely there is. Don't you lie to me. I can hear the witch's voice. She led me to this house. I promise you, there isn't. Now please, be on your way. Have you any idea how long it took to find this place, Patty? How many days have gone without food or water? And you're telling me she got lost? I don't know what you want from me. Happy to give you a little food, so please. Is there really no witch? There is no witch here. It's nothing but a legend. If she does exist, she doesn't live here. Then that means you're just an ordinary person. Huh? Just a person. Just a girl. Oh boy. So that ain't a thing you can do. No, get away from me. What are you doing? I waste time waiting for you to get me a little grub, and I can just take it all. Ooh, I'm starving here. I'm so hungry, I could be human. You're about to commit a grievous sin. Are you not ashamed to act in defiance of God? God? If I believed in God, would I come begging to a witch? I don't fear him. I sure as hell don't fear people. Who's gonna show up at a house in the middle of nowhere? Who's gonna call me out? Who's gonna stop me? No one. That's who. No one's gonna stop me, and no one's gonna offer salvation. Ah, there's a thought. Here, woman. So before I kill ya. Yep. This is what I was thinking was gonna happen. What are you doing?
What? There's other people here?
The white-haired girl lay pinned on the floor beneath the yelling Bennett, pleading for help with her ruby eyes. As soon as Michelle grasped the situation, he tossed his candlestick aside and leapt for the man. The candlestick gave a sharp clang when it hit the floor. The impact extinguished the flame, bringing the mansion to near perfect darkness. Something glittered in the Bennett's hand, which I imagined was a knife, and then, without hesitation, he thrusted it at Michelle. Yup. Honestly, I was expecting her to be the one dying. But him dying to save her was... Michelle!
How stupid must you be to come at me unarmed?
In his hand, the man held a knife, its tip dripping with Michelle's blood. Red spilled from the gash in his arm, the flow growing heavier with each passing moment.
You're the only other person here by the looks of it, eh? Perfect. I'll take you both out.
You
What?
You don't appear to know whose house you tried to break into.
What you're on about, boy?
Regret your ignorance to your very last breath.
You're messed up in the head, you madman. Stay the hell back. Take one more step and...
Ooh, the hand coming for him. I inherited the witch's curse.
Let go.
Michelle clutched the man's face in one hand. The man raised his knife to strike back, but
What's happening?
the strength drained from his fingers, the knife falling to the floor. The man writhed in Michelle's grip.
Me face. Me face. I can't breathe.
Leave this place immediately. As if that guy's gonna live. Though you won't get far afflicted with my curse. Well, somebody ran. Helpless to fight back, nay, helpless to even consider fighting back, the bandit fled from the mansion in terror. And I've just realized, like, Michelle's bleeding, and Giselle can't even help bandage him up because she would be touching him. So the only way to help him out is if he would be able to do first aid on himself. In his wake, only the white-haired girl and a bleeding Michelle remained. I just saw a man's life drained from him, his face withering away, left completely dry. I didn't doubt him, but dear God, that was quite disturbing for you, sir. No, not at all. My fault. Anyway, if I hadn't been so careless. Oh, your arm. We need to get that wrapped up. Please, do not touch me. You mustn't touch me. Your wound is hardly fatal. Oh, my fault. I'm so sorry. No, a degree of the blame falls on me, saying nothing. Next time someone comes to the door, let me know. I'm sorry. Please, don't need to apologize. Well, yes. For once, I'm actually proud of myself. Proud that I could use this terrible ability of mine to do something more than just take life. He protected a life. Yep, to protect someone I care about. Uh, um, um, so, like I said, please don't apologize. Alright, thank you. Um, Bill? Hmm? I'm glad you're here. I care about you too. Th- Thank you. Hopefully that wasn't him, falling unconscious. Had the flame of Michelle's candle not gone out when he threw it to the floor, you would have seen a heartfelt smile on the white haired girl's face, and she would have seen a flush of red and an awkward smile on Michelle's normally blank face. He also might have seen a little glimmer on her cheek, where a few drops of his blood had landed. Oh, oh no. So, yeah, his wound was not fatal. However, she's still dying because of touching him. Well, but alas, they had no light. Yep, you can see what's happening here. The collapse of their happiness came slowly, gradually. Perhaps it was because she had touched his blood instead of his skin, but the deterioration of the white haired girl's health crept along at a relaxed pace. The life was not sucked out of her in the blink of an eye, as it had been on the bandit. She merely grew progressively less and less healthy. Amidst her physical decay, she was bestowed with one blessing. Her beauty remained untouched. But as far as blessings went, surely there were others she could have been granted. Could God have not picked something a little better for her? By the time the two of them realized what was happening, it was already too late. The white haired girl had grown so weak she could hardly leave her bed. Um, yes? Oh, you're there. I am. Thank goodness. I can't see very well anymore. So you're saying she went blind? Like a certain version of her that met a certain beast, huh? How could this happen? I thought I had saved you. But no, I did the exact. I mean, if you didn't do anything, she would have a much worse fate. Not only killed. Please, don't talk that way. You you did save me that day. But you're on the cusp of death now. And it's my fault. Because of this curse I bear. How? How could this happen? Why did this have to happen? What am I? Why was I given this body? Shell, can I, do a favor? Go ahead. Stay with me, please. Much as you can, to the very end. I was going to do as much anyway. Thank you. I'm happy, Michelle. Happier than I have ever been. And I mean that. You didn't just save my life, you saved me. Been saved. But only me. I wonder how he'll handle things when I'm gone. If only I hadn't opened the door that day. I wouldn't be leaving him all alone. And we could be happy together for even longer. Um, yes? Would you please hold my hand? Think probably safe now. I will not. I cannot touch you. If I do, I might take what remains of your life, take your beauty away, and force you to die hideous. I cannot touch you. Oh, we're having those bugging out moments. Let me just look at the log. Oh my god. What is go... Okay, this is... Okay, this is completely new here. It's not in red, but... Dark. 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 It's dark. How long has it been dark here? How long have I been in the darkness? So cold here. Freezing. Where? Where could she have gone? Where could she be? Giselle. Yes. Her smile shines so bright it can cast away the darkness. I must take her hand. She's been calling for me for so long. Take her hand? But I'm cursed. That would kill her. No. 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 This... This is all a lie. Let me just look to see if there was nothing more. No, I think that was it. All that. We're gonna be ending things here. For Wish. So I feel we're reaching the end of this area, this era, because we reached that point of the story where they had a romance as much as they had to be apart from each other since of his curse. However, when the bandit showed up, everything just went in high gear. He jumped in to protect her, and his blood got spilled on her. So she died a slow death. And not even at her dying moments was she able to hold his hand. Because he still feared taking the little life she had away at a moment's notice. Oof. That was sad. But not as big of tragedy as the other ones. So definitely very sad, but the tragedy not as big. So I'm waiting for that big moment to still come in here. But yeah, that's all we got for today. And with that being said, see you next time. Bye.